Fleet Admiral Toran stood before the Council of Seven, his scaled hands gripping the edges of the speaker's platform. The war room stretched vast and dark around him, lit only by the blue glow of holographic displays. 40 years he had served the Vrelian Empire. 40 years of conquest, of bringing order to chaos across the galaxy. But today, standing before the most powerful beings in known space, his voice carried something he had never felt before: fear. "I urge the Council to reconsider," Toran said, his voice steady despite the unease in his chest. "Earth must remain untouched." High Chancellor Varix, seated at the center of the 7 thrones, released a sound that resembled laughter. His 4 eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of amusement among their kind. "Admiral, you have served with distinction. 847 worlds bow to our empire because of commanders like you. Yet you stand here warning us against a primitive species that still burns fossil fuels?" Toran activated the holographic projector. Images filled the air between him and the Council. "I have spent 6 months observing them. These are not simple creatures, my lords. They are dangerous." The first image showed a human city, tall buildings reaching toward the sky. Normal enough. Then the image changed. The same city, but now reduced to rubble, smoke rising, fires burning. "They do this to themselves," Toran explained. "This is from one of their world wars. They split the atom and created weapons that could destroy entire cities in seconds. Then they used those weapons on each other." Council member Dratha leaned forward, her interest piqued. "They survived such weapons?" "Not only survived," Toran continued, "they rebuilt. They created more weapons, bigger ones, enough to destroy their entire world several times over. And then—" he paused, letting the weight settle. "They chose not to use them again. They made agreements, treaties. They controlled themselves." "This proves they can be reasoned with," Varix interrupted. "They understand surrender." Toran shook his head. "You misunderstand, Chancellor. They did not stop because they were weak. They stopped because they knew using such weapons would destroy everything. But when their survival is threatened, they will use anything, everything." He showed more images. Humans in white coats, working with deadly diseases. They create viruses in laboratories. They study how to kill their own species, claiming it helps them learn how to save lives. They poison themselves to understand poison. Another image appeared. Human soldiers in a desert, their bodies covered in protective gear, walking through clouds of toxic gas. They train in conditions that would kill most species. They teach their warriors to survive without food, without water, without sleep. Council member Ron, the military strategist, shifted in his seat. "All warrior species train their soldiers." "Not like this." Toran's voice grew harder. "I watched their historical records. During one of their wars, a human soldier had his arm blown off by an explosive. He picked up his weapon with his remaining arm and continued fighting. He survived. There are thousands of similar stories." He showed footage of human rescue workers running into burning buildings, of doctors working through natural disasters, of civilians forming chains to save strangers from floods. They have a concept they call "no one left behind." They will die to save one of their own. This is not trained behavior, my lords. This is their nature. Varix waved a hand dismissively. Emotional attachments make them weak, not strong. "I thought so too," Toran admitted, "until I watched more. They sent explorers to their moon using primitive rocket technology. 3 humans in a metal tube, knowing they might never return. When one of their early space vehicles exploded, killing the crew, did they stop? No. They mourned, then built another vehicle. They went back into space." The Admiral pulled up another image. A human climbing a frozen mountain alone in conditions that would freeze a Vrelian solid in minutes. They climb mountains because they are there. They dive to the deepest parts of their oceans in tiny vessels, just to see what exists in the dark. They launch machines into space to touch the edge of their solar system. Not for resources, not for territory, for curiosity. Council member Lysara, the youngest of the seven, spoke for the first time. They sound persistent. Persistent. Toran repeated the word like it tasted bitter. Yes. They are persistent like a virus is persistent, like a fire is persistent. My lords, I have studied every species we have conquered. The Korthan warriors, who could tear through steel with their bare hands. The Methonian hive, with their perfect coordination and billion-strong armies. The Krell Empire, with technology that rivaled our own. All of them fell within months. He looked each council member in the eye. Humans have been fighting each other for their entire history, thousands of years of constant warfare. They have never known true peace. They fight over resources, over beliefs, over invisible lines they draw on their planet. They fight with stones, with swords, with bullets, with bombs. They adapt, they learn, they improve. Each generation creates more efficient ways to kill. Then they are divided, Varric said. We will turn them against each other. That is what concerns me most. Toran's voice dropped lower. They are divided, hundreds of nations, thousands of cultures, countless languages. They hate each other for reasons that seem meaningless. But I accessed their cultural records, their stories, their myths. And do you know what I found? Silence filled the chamber. Every single human culture, no matter how different, shares the same stories. Stories of monsters from the sky, stories of invaders from beyond the stars. And in every single story, the humans unite. They put aside their differences and fight as one against the outside threat. Toran showed a final image. A human child, no more than a few years old, drawing on paper. The drawing showed stick figures holding hands in a circle around their blue planet. Above them, crude drawings of alien ships. The child's caption, translated by their systems, read, "When they come, we stand together." This is their dream, Toran said quietly. Buried in their entertainment, their art, their stories, they imagine themselves as the underdog, the prey, the weak. And they imagine themselves winning. They have prepared for us without knowing we existed. High Chancellor Varric stood, his massive form casting shadows across the chamber. Admiral Toran, your caution is noted. But we are the Vrelian Empire. We have crushed warrior races. We have absorbed technological civilizations. We have broken hive minds that thought as one. What can divided primitive humans do against our might? Toran felt the decision had already been made. He had one more card to play. I request permission to speak freely, Chancellor. Granted. You are making a mistake that will cost the Empire dearly. We should observe them longer. We should study them more carefully. Or better yet, we should leave them alone completely. The council chamber erupted in angry chittering. Varric raised a hand for silence. The vote will proceed, the Chancellor announced. All in favor of claiming Earth for the Empire? 7 hands rose, unanimous. Toran's shoulders sagged. He had failed. Fleet Admiral Toran, Varric commanded. You will lead the invasion force. 300 vessels. Earth will submit or be destroyed. You have your orders. Toran saluted, the gesture automatic after decades of service. As he turned to leave, he stopped at the chamber door. Chancellor, one final thing. Speak. When this goes wrong, remember I warned you. Remember that I told you to leave humanity alone. He walked out, the door sealing behind him. The council members sat in silence for a moment before Varric spoke again. Prepare the fleet. We conquer Earth in 30 days. In his quarters, Toran looked at the images of Earth on his personal display. Green continents, blue oceans, white clouds. Such a beautiful world. such a dangerous species. He had warned them. They had not listened. Now, the galaxy would learn what humans were truly capable of, and Toran suspected that lesson would be written in blood. The ships appeared on a Tuesday morning. Across Earth, millions of people looked up to see them. Massive vessels, each one larger than the biggest human city, hung motionless in the sky. They blocked out the sun over New York, Moscow, Beijing, Seoul, London, and dozens of other cities. The ships were dark metal, covered in symbols that hurt to look at for too long. Commander Lee Hyun was eating breakfast when the alert came through. He dropped his coffee cup and ran to the command center at Osan Air Base. Other officers were already there, staring at screens filled with impossible data. "How many?" Lee Hyun asked. 300 confirmed contacts, replied Captain Park Ji-won, her fingers flying across her keyboard. "All in stable orbit. No hostile action yet." "Yet," Lee Hyun repeated. He looked at the main screen. One of the alien ships filled the view, its size making him feel small and helpless. "Get me a line to the Joint Chiefs. Get everyone." Around the world, similar scenes played out. Military bases went to high alert. Leaders were rushed to secure locations. Scientists gathered whatever data they could, and ordinary people stood in streets, on rooftops, in parks, staring at the sky. The broadcast came 2 hours after the ships arrived. Every television, every radio, every computer screen on Earth suddenly showed the same thing: a face that was not human. 4 eyes arranged in a square pattern, scaled skin that shifted colors, a mouth that moved wrong. "People of Earth," the alien said, speaking in perfect English, then repeating in Chinese, Spanish, Hindi, Arabic, and dozens of other languages. "I am High Chancellor Varix of the Vrelian Empire. Your planet has been selected for integration into our domain. You have 24 hours to surrender your governments and military forces. Comply and you will be treated fairly. Resist and you will be eliminated. You cannot win. We have conquered 847 worlds. Yours will be 848. The transmission ended. For exactly 30 seconds, the world was silent. Then chaos erupted. Some people panicked. Some prayed. Some prepared to fight. But most did something the Vrelians had not expected. They got angry. Lee Hyun stood in the command center watching the feeds from around the world. "Thoughts?" he asked his team. "They want us scared," Park Ji-won said. "They expect surrender." "Are we surrendering?" a young officer asked. Lee Hyun looked at him. Then he looked at everyone in the room. "My grandfather fought in the Korean War. My father served during the Cold War. I joined the military to protect our people. Now aliens show up and tell us we have one day to give up?" He shook his head. "Call me crazy, but I think we should show them what happens when you threaten Earth." A communications officer raised her hand. "Sir, I'm getting reports from around the world. Nobody is surrendering. Americans are loading guns, Russians are moving tanks, the Chinese are activating their entire military, the Europeans are coordinating. The Middle East, Africa, South America, everyone is mobilizing." Park Ji-won pulled up a global map. Red markers appeared everywhere as military forces activated. "Sir, old enemies are talking to each other. Countries that haven't spoken in decades are sharing intel. It's like the whole world just became allies." "Good," Lee Hyun said. "Get me everything we know about those ships. I want scientists analyzing every piece of data. If these things can be killed, I want to know how." In a laboratory in Seoul, Dr. Kang Mina was already working. She had been studying the electromagnetic signatures from the alien vessels since they arrived. Her team worked without sleeping, running simulation after simulation. "They're using some kind of energy field around the ships," she explained to her assistant. "But look here." She pointed to a fluctuation in the data. "Every few minutes there's a tiny gap, a moment when the field weakens." "Is that enough?" her assistant asked. It's something, Dr. Kang replied. That's more than we had an hour ago. Around the world, similar efforts were underway. Every scientist, engineer, and researcher who could help was working on the problem. How do you fight an enemy with technology centuries ahead of your own? The answer, humans decided, was simple. You cheat. The 24 hours passed slowly. The Vrelian ships hung in the sky, waiting. On Earth, no white flags were raised. No surrender came. Instead, humans prepared. When the deadline expired, the Vrelian ships made their move. Smaller craft detached from the main vessels. Hundreds of them, each one still larger than a human fighter jet. They descended through the atmosphere, heading for military bases, government buildings, and population centers. Here they come, Park Ji-won reported. Multiple inbound contacts at all major cities. Lee Hyun took a breath. All forces. This is Commander Lee Hyun. You all know what to do. Make them pay for every meter. Show them what humans are made of. Fire at will. The first Vrelian fighter entered the airspace over Osan Air Base. It was met by a wall of missiles, surface-to-air weapons launched from every direction. The alien craft's shields flared blue as the first impacts hit. The shield held. The alien craft continued forward. Then a missile got through. One tiny gap in the shield, found by sheer volume of fire. The weapons struck the craft's hull and exploded. The alien fighter wobbled, lost control, and crashed into an empty field. "Target down!" someone shouted. "We got one!" Similar scenes played out everywhere. The aliens had better technology, but humans had numbers. For every alien craft, 10 human weapons fired. The Vrelians destroyed many missiles, shot down many jets, but they also took losses. Losses they had not expected. In orbit, Fleet Admiral Toran watched his tactical display with growing concern. Red markers appeared across the board, each one representing a destroyed Vrelian craft. This should not be happening. The humans were supposed to surrender or die quickly. "Status report," he ordered. "We've lost 73 fighters," his tactical officer reported, confusion in his voice. "The humans are using overwhelming numbers. They're not trying to be efficient. They're just throwing everything they have at us." Casualties on their side? Significant. But they're not stopping. Sir, they're not even slowing down. Toran remembered his warning to the council. They had not listened. Now his soldiers were dying. On Earth, the battle raged. A Vrelian fighter strafed a city street. Human soldiers fired back with everything they had. A rocket hit the craft, punching through damaged shields. The fighter crashed into a building. Humans pulled wounded civilians from the rubble, then went back to fighting. In Tokyo, an alien landed its craft in a park, trying to establish a landing zone. Japanese self-defense forces surrounded it immediately. The aliens had powerful weapons, but they had never fought in urban terrain against enemies who knew every street, every building, every hiding spot. The humans attacked from above, from below, from all sides. The aliens retreated back to their craft and took off, abandoning the position. Dr. Kang Mina worked through the battle, her laboratory shaking with each nearby explosion. She had collected data from every encounter. She had analyzed wreckage from downed alien craft. And she had found something. "The shield frequency," she said to herself. "It's consistent. They all use the same frequency." She ran to her computer, fingers flying across the keyboard. If all the ships used the same shield frequency, then she could create a weapon specifically designed to disrupt it. Not destroy it, but confuse it. Create gaps. She sent her findings to the military command. Within an hour, engineers were modifying weapons. Within 2 hours, the new weapons were being deployed. The next wave of Vrelian fighters came down. This time, they were met with weapons tuned to disrupt their shields. The blue barriers flickered and failed. Human weapons struck home with devastating efficiency. More alien craft fell from the sky. Toran watched the casualty reports climb. In one day of fighting, he had lost more craft than in the entire conquest of 3 other worlds. And the humans were not slowing down. They were learning. "Sir," his communications officer said, "High Chancellor Varix is demanding an explanation." Toran activated the channel. Varix's face appeared, all 4 eyes focused on him with anger. "Why have you not secured the planet?" the Chancellor demanded. "They are resisting more effectively than predicted," Toran replied carefully. "Then use more force. Destroy their cities. Break their will." "Chancellor, I recommend we withdraw and reconsider our approach." "We do not withdraw," Varix roared. "We are the Vrelian Empire. Deploy ground forces. Occupy their cities. Show them they cannot win." The channel closed. Toran looked at his staff. They were afraid. In decades of service, he had never seen fear in Vrelian warriors before. "Prepare the ground forces," he ordered quietly. "And may the Void have mercy on us all." On Earth, Li Hyun received reports of alien troops landing. "They're coming to the ground," he told his team. "They think they can occupy us." Park Jiwan smiled grimly. "They have no idea what they're in for." "No," Li Hyun agreed, "they don't." The first day of fighting ended with both sides bloodied. The Vrelians had expected easy victory. Instead, they faced an enemy that refused to break, an enemy that adapted, an enemy that got angrier with each attack. The war for Earth had begun, and humanity was just getting started. 3 days after the invasion began, the Vrelians controlled 7 major cities around the world. Their forces had landed in New York, Moscow, Shanghai, Mumbai, Lagos, São Paulo, and Seoul. They set up checkpoints, established communication blackouts, and expected the humans to accept their new reality. That was their first mistake. Soldier Choi Dae-ho crouched in the ruins of what used to be a shopping center in Seoul. His unit had been scattered during the initial landing, but he found other survivors. Korean soldiers, American soldiers stationed at the base, British advisors, even Japanese volunteers who had crossed the sea to help. They all wore different uniforms, but they all fought for the same thing. "Vehicle coming," whispered Private Yoon Min-ho, watching through broken glass. A Vrelian transport moved down the street, carrying troops to reinforce a checkpoint. Choi Dae-ho nodded to his team. They had practiced this for 2 days. One soldier fired a rocket at the front of the vehicle, another fired at the back. The transport's shields flared, protecting it from both attacks. But shields needed power, and power created heat. The third soldier fired at the middle. The shield, already stressed, flickered. The rocket hit home. The transport exploded, metal and alien bodies flying through the air. "Move!" Choi Dae-ho ordered. They ran through the building, using paths they had prepared. By the time Vrelian reinforcements arrived, the humans were gone, ready to strike somewhere else. This scene repeated across every occupied city. The Vrelians had superior weapons and armor, but they had never fought an enemy like this. Humans who knew every alley, every basement, every hidden route. Humans who struck fast and disappeared. Humans who turned their own cities into weapons. In New York, a Vrelian patrol entered a subway tunnel, chasing resistance fighters. The humans led them deeper underground, then detonated the tunnel behind them. The aliens were trapped, forced to surrender or die in the dark. In Moscow, someone programmed all the city's electronic billboards to flash patterns specifically designed to interfere with Vrelian visual sensors. The aliens couldn't look at the screens without disorientation. Human fighters used this advantage to strike and escape. In Mumbai, residents used their knowledge of the monsoon weather to predict when the heavy rains would come. They attacked during storms, when the aliens' thermal sensors were less effective, when visibility dropped, when the advantage shifted. The Vrelians were learning a hard lesson. Conquering a city was not the same as controlling it. Dr. Kang Mina worked in a secret laboratory, moved underground after the surface facilities were destroyed. She had teams analyzing every piece of alien technology they could recover. Weapons, armor, communication devices, everything. Their plasma rifles work by superheating gas, she explained to a military engineer. But the heating element needs to cool down between shots. That's why there's a delay. Can we copy it? The engineer asked. Better, Dr. Kang replied. We can modify our own weapons. Look. If we use this frequency of electromagnetic pulse, we can force their weapons to overheat, make them useless. Within hours, soldiers were being equipped with small EMP devices. When Vrelian troops raised their weapons, humans triggered the pulse. The alien weapons sparked and died. Then human weapons, simple bullets and explosives, did their work. The Vrelians adapted too. They started using more basic weapons, things that couldn't be disrupted by EMP. But that meant giving up their technological advantage. That meant fighting on human terms. Commander Lee Hyun coordinated resistance efforts from a mobile command post. They couldn't stay in one place long. The aliens tracked electronic signals. But they learned to use short bursts of communication, moving constantly, staying ahead. Report from Seoul, Park Jawan said, reading from a tablet. Choi Daeho's team destroyed another transport. Moscow reports 3 successful ambushes. Shanghai says they've cut off an entire Vrelian company from their supply lines. Casualties? Lee Hyun asked. Heavy on both sides, Park Ji-won admitted. But they're hurting too. Sir, they're not winning. They expected to conquer us in days. It's been 3 months. 3 months of brutal fighting. 3 months of cities burning. 3 months of humanity refusing to break. In the occupied zones, the Vrelians tried to establish normal operations. They posted rules, established curfews, expected compliance. They did not understand humans at all. An elderly woman in New York ignored curfew to bring food to fighters hiding in her building. When aliens confronted her, she pretended not to understand. They let her go, not wanting to waste time with an old human. She returned every night, feeding the resistance. A teacher in Shanghai continued teaching children in secret basements, keeping human knowledge alive. When Vrelians found one classroom, they shut it down. 10 more opened the next day. A doctor in Lagos treated both humans and captured Vrelian soldiers. She saved alien lives, then the humans she saved information from those same aliens. Information that helped defeat other Vrelian forces. Humans were fighting with everything. Weapons, yes, but also with culture, knowledge, and stubborn determination to remain human. Fleet Admiral Toran watched the reports with growing despair. He had warned the Council. He had told them humans were dangerous, but even he had not imagined this. We control 7 cities, his strategic advisor reported. But we cannot move outside them without heavy casualties. Human resistance fighters attack our supply convoys constantly. We lost another transport ship yesterday. The humans launched missiles from hidden positions. And our casualties? Toran asked, though he knew the answer would be bad. 43,000 dead, another 100,000 wounded. Sir, we've never lost this many soldiers in an occupation. Never. Toran pulled up a map of Earth. Red zones showed Vrelian control, but those zones were shrinking, not growing. Outside the cities, humans controlled everything. They had turned their entire world into a battlefield. What are our soldiers saying? Toran asked. The advisor hesitated. They're afraid, sir. They say the humans never stop. You can shoot one and 2 more appear. You can destroy their weapons, and they make new ones. You can occupy their cities, but you can never control them. One soldier had said something that spread through the Vrelian ranks like disease. Fighting humans is like fighting water. You can push it away, but it always comes back. Toran opened a communication channel to High Chancellor Varix. The Chancellor's face appeared, looking annoyed. Report, Varix demanded. The occupation is not proceeding as planned, Toran said carefully. The humans are employing resistance tactics we have not encountered before. I recommend we open negotiations." "Negotiations?" Varrix's voice rose. "We do not negotiate with primitives. You have 300 ships, Admiral. Use them." "Chancellor, orbital bombardment of occupied cities would kill our own forces. Then pull our forces back and destroy the cities from orbit. Break their will. Show them resistance is futile." Toran felt something in his chest tighten. That would mean killing billions of civilians. "They are not citizens of the Empire," Varrix said coldly. "They are obstacles. Remove them." The channel closed. Toran sat in silence, staring at nothing. Orders were orders. He had always followed orders, but these orders felt wrong in a way he had never experienced before. On Earth, humans learned something, too. They learned that working together made them stronger. Old enemies became allies. Countries that had fought each other for generations now shared technology, tactics, intelligence. Park Ji-won met with officers from 12 different nations. They shared a secured communication channel, rotating frequencies to avoid detection. "China is developing new anti-ship missiles," a Chinese officer reported. "We'll share the designs with everyone." "Russia has modified tanks to better target Vrelian armor," a Russian commander added. "Blueprints are ready for transfer." "The United States has cracked some of their communication protocols," an American general said. "We can sometimes intercept their orders now." This would have been impossible before the invasion. These nations had been rivals, sometimes enemies. Now they were brothers and sisters in arms. Li Hyun listened to the reports and felt something unexpected. Hope. "We're learning faster than they are," he said. "They've been conquering for decades, using the same tactics. But we're adapting every day, every hour. We're evolving." Dr. Kang Mina had made another breakthrough. She had been studying the Vrelian computer systems, learning their programming language. It was complex but not impossible. And she had an idea. "What if we could infect their systems?" she asked her team. "A virus, specifically designed to target their technology. We could disable their ships, their weapons, everything." "That would take months to develop," her assistant protested. "Then we work faster," Dr. Kang replied, "because I think we're running out of time." She was right. Toran had received his orders. In 7 days, he would withdraw all ground forces from Earth, and then he would begin orbital bombardment. The cities would burn, billions would die. But Toran made a decision that would change everything. He sent a coded message to a trusted subordinate, a message that would be passed to another, then another, until it reached someone unexpected. The message contained 3 words, "I am sorry." And attached to those words were files. Detailed files about Vrelian shield frequencies, weapon systems, supply routes, and communication protocols. Everything a resistance force would need to fight back effectively. The message was intercepted by a human intelligence officer. At first, they thought it was a trap. But as they analyzed the data, they realized it was real. It was accurate, and it was exactly what they needed. Commander Li Hyun looked at the intelligence report, hardly believing what he was reading. "Someone on their side is helping us," Park Ji-won said, equally shocked. "An admiral. Their fleet commander." "Why?" Li Hyun asked. "The message says, 'I am sorry,'" Park Ji-won read. "Sir, I think their admiral tried to warn them about us. I think he knows this war was a mistake." Li Hyun looked at the data. With this information, humanity could strike back, really strike back, not just survive, but win. "Get this information to everyone," he ordered. "Every resistance cell, every military unit, every scientist. We have 7 days. Let's make them count." The war was about to change, and the Vrelians were about to learn why Admiral Toran had begged them to leave humanity alone. Dr. Kang Mina had not slept in 3 days. Her eyes burned with exhaustion, but her mind raced with purpose. The data from the mysterious Vrelian admiral had given her everything she needed. Now, she just had to make it work. "The virus is ready," she told Commander Lee Hyun through a secured video call. "But we need to get it into their network, their main command ship. Once it's in their system, it will spread to every vessel in the fleet." "What will it do?" Lee Hyun asked. "Everything," Dr. Kang replied with a tired smile. "Navigation, weapons, shields, communications, life support. All of it will fail, not permanently, but long enough." "Long enough for what?" "Long enough for us to hit them where it hurts." Lee Hyun understood. The virus would create a window, a brief moment when the mighty Vrelian fleet would be vulnerable. They had to be ready to use that moment. "How do we deliver it?" he asked. "That's the hard part," Dr. Kang admitted. "Someone needs to get to their command ship, in orbit. Someone needs to physically access their main computer core." Lee Hyun was quiet for a moment. "That's a suicide mission." "I know," Dr. Kang said, "but it's the only way." Commander Lee Hyun called for volunteers. He expected a few brave souls to step forward. Instead, he got hundreds, soldiers who had lost families, scientists who wanted to contribute, even civilians who had learned to fight during the occupation. He chose a team of 12, soldiers from 6 different countries, the best of the best, people who knew they might not come back but went anyway, because that's what humans did. Park Ji-won would pilot the captured Vrelian shuttle they had repaired. Choi Dae-ho and his squad would provide security. A young tech specialist named Yoon Seo-jin would deliver the virus, and Lee Hyun would lead them. "Sir, you don't have to do this," Park Ji-won protested. "We need you here, coordinating." "I need to be there," Lee Hyun replied. "If we fail, someone else can coordinate. But I'm not sending people to die while I sit in safety." They launched at dawn, using the Vrelian shuttle's identification codes that the mysterious admiral had provided. The codes worked. They passed through the defensive perimeter unchallenged. The captured shuttle looked like it belonged. Inside the shuttle, 12 humans prepared for battle. They wore stolen Vrelian armor, modified to fit human bodies. They carried weapons taken from dead aliens, supplemented with human guns and explosives. They were a patchwork force, but they were determined. "Approaching the command ship," Park Ji-won reported. Her hands were steady on the controls, but her heart raced. She had flown jets before, but never something this large, never something this important. The command ship loomed ahead, massive beyond comprehension. It was a city in space, home to thousands of Vrelian soldiers and officers, and somewhere inside was Fleet Admiral Toron. They docked. The shuttle connected to the command ship's airlock. Warning lights flashed, but the identification codes held. The door opened. "Move fast," Lee Hyun ordered. "They'll figure out we don't belong soon enough." They rushed through the ship's corridors. Yoon Seo-jin led the way, following the map data the mysterious admiral had provided. The computer core was deep inside the ship, protected by multiple security checkpoints. At the first checkpoint, a Vrelian guard raised his weapon. Choi Dae-ho fired first, his stolen plasma rifle cutting through the alien's armor. The guard fell. Alarms began to sound. "They know we're here," Park Ji-won said, checking her tactical display. "Multiple contacts converging on our position." "Keep moving," Lee Hyun commanded. "We only need a few minutes." They fought through corridor after corridor. Human soldiers against Vrelian warriors. The aliens were stronger, their armor better. But the humans were faster, more desperate. And they fought with a fury that surprised their enemies. A Vrelian soldier grabbed one of Lee Hyun's team members, lifting the human off the ground with ease. Choi Dae-ho shot the alien in the joint between armor plates. Another soldier finished it with a close-range blast. They reached the computer core. Yoon Seo-jin ran to the main console, his fingers flying across the alien interface. Dr. Kang had taught him how to navigate the system. He inserted a drive containing the virus. "Uploading," he reported. 30 seconds. We don't have 30 seconds, Park Ji-won warned. Contact coming from 3 directions. The team formed a defensive circle around Yoon Seo-jin. Vrelian soldiers poured into the room. Plasma fire lit the space like lightning. One human fell, then another. But they held the line. 20 seconds, Yoon Seo-jin called out. Lee Hyun fired his weapon until it overheated, then switched to a human rifle. Bullets against advanced armor. Some penetrated, most didn't. But they kept the aliens back. 10 seconds. A Vrelian grenade landed near them. Choi Dai-ho grabbed it and threw it back. The explosion shook the room. More aliens fell. Upload complete! Fall back! Lee Hyun ordered. They retreated, fighting every step. Half the team was wounded. 2 were dead, carried by their companions because humans left no one behind. They reached the shuttle just as the virus activated. Throughout the Vrelian fleet, systems began to fail. Navigation computers showed random coordinates. Weapon systems powered down. Shield generators flickered and died. Communication channels filled with static and corrupted data. On the command ship's bridge, Fleet Admiral Toran watched chaos erupt around him. Sir, we've been infected with some kind of virus, his technical officer reported, panic in his voice. It's spreading through the entire network. I can't stop it. Toran looked at his tactical display. Every ship in the fleet was experiencing the same problems. They were blind, defenseless, vulnerable. He knew immediately what had happened. The humans had used the data he sent them. They had struck at the heart of Vrelian power, and they had succeeded. Can you restore systems? Toran asked. Yes, but it will take time. Hours, maybe more. Hours. Toran realized what that meant. Hours for the humans to attack. Hours for Earth's forces to launch every weapon they had at defenseless Vrelian ships. He opened a communication channel, knowing it might be his last act as a free Vrelian. All Earth forces, this is Fleet Admiral Toran. I am transmitting access codes to our planetary destruction weapon. It's located on the dark side of your moon. Destroy it before we regain control. You have 4 hours. His bridge officers stared at him in shock. Sir, what have you done? His second-in-command asked. What I should have done from the beginning, Toran replied. I've stopped a genocide. Security officers moved toward him. Toran did not resist. He had made his choice. He had saved billions of human lives. Whatever happened to him now didn't matter. On Earth, Commander Lee Hyun heard Toran's message as his team's shuttle fled the command ship. All around them, human forces were launching attacks. Missiles, railguns, experimental energy weapons, everything humanity had built in 6 months of desperate warfare, all aimed at the Vrelian fleet. Ships that had seemed invincible now burned. Without shields, without weapons, they were just metal targets. Humanity struck with savage efficiency. But Lee Hyun had a different mission. Park Ji-won, set course for the moon. We have a weapon to destroy. The shuttle raced toward Earth's moon, pushing its engines beyond safe limits. Other human craft joined them, hastily launched from bases around the world. They all had the same goal. On the dark side of the moon, they found it. A massive weapon built into the lunar surface. According to the data Toran had sent, this device could crack a planet in half. It could turn Earth into an asteroid field. Targeting, Park Ji-won said, her voice tight with tension. Fire everything, Lee Hyun ordered. Missiles streaked across the lunar surface. The weapon's automated defenses tried to activate, but the virus had affected them too. The missiles hit home. Explosions rippled across the moon's surface. The weapon, humanity's potential doom, shattered into pieces. Target destroyed, Park Ji-won confirmed. Back in Earth orbit, the battle continued. Vrelian ships tried to retreat, but their navigation systems were corrupted. Some jumped to random coordinates, others collided with each other. A few managed to organize defenses as their systems slowly came back online, but by then it was too late. The Vrelian fleet, The pride of the empire that had conquered 847 worlds was in full retreat. They fled Earth's system, leaving behind disabled ships and thousands of dead. The occupation forces on the ground, cut off from support, began surrendering. In the command ship's brig, Fleet Admiral Toran sat in a cell. He could hear the alarms, the sounds of battle, the chaos his actions had created. He felt no regret. A junior officer appeared at his cell. "Sir, High Chancellor Varix is demanding to speak with you." Toran stood. "Let him speak." Varix's face appeared on a screen, all four eyes burning with rage. "Traitor! You have destroyed the fleet! You have sided with our enemies!" "I tried to warn you," Toran replied calmly. "I told you to leave humanity alone. You didn't listen. This blood is on your hands, not mine." "You will be executed for this," Varix seethed. "Probably," Toran agreed, "but I'll die knowing I prevented a genocide. I'll die knowing I made the right choice. Can you say the same, Chancellor?" Varix cut the transmission. Toran sat back down, at peace for the first time in months. On Earth, people emerged from shelters and bunkers to see the alien ships fleeing. Some were destroyed, others jumped to faster than light, running away. The occupation was over. In the streets of Seoul, Choi Dae-ho and his surviving team members stood among rubble, watching the sky. A few people cheered. Most were too exhausted, too traumatized. They had won, but the cost was terrible. Commander Lee Hyun landed back at a military base, greeted by soldiers from a dozen nations. They saluted him. He saluted back. They had done the impossible. They had defeated an galactic empire. But as Lee Hyun looked at the ruins of the base, at the wounded soldiers, at the smoke rising from distant cities, he knew the war had changed everything. Earth had survived. But Earth was no longer innocent. Humanity had learned there were dangers beyond their world, and they had learned they could fight those dangers. They could win. The galaxy had tried to conquer humanity. Instead, humanity had shown the galaxy what humans were truly capable of, and that lesson had been written in fire and blood. The war ended on a cold morning in March, 6 months after the first alien ships appeared in Earth's sky. The last Vrelian occupation forces surrendered in Lagos, laying down their weapons and waiting for human soldiers to take them prisoner. There was no ceremony, no dramatic final battle. The war simply ended because the Vrelians had nothing left to fight with. Commander Lee Hyun stood in the ruins of Seoul, watching construction crews begin the long process of rebuilding. The city looked like it had been hit by earthquakes and fires. Buildings were collapsed, streets were cratered, but people were returning, coming back to their homes, determined to rebuild. "The final count is in," Park Ji-won said, walking up beside him. She carried a tablet with the numbers that Lee Hyun had been dreading to see. "Tell me," he said quietly. 1 billion. 300 million dead. 2 billion wounded or displaced. 40% of major cities destroyed or heavily damaged. Economic collapse in most regions. Food and water shortages everywhere. Lee Hyun closed his eyes. 1 billion people, gone, because aliens decided Earth should belong to them. "And them?" he asked, meaning the Vrelians. "Unknown exactly, but estimates put their military casualties at over 200,000 dead, half their invasion force. 50 ships destroyed, the rest fled back to their empire. Sir, we broke them. We actually won." "Won!" The word felt hollow. Yes, Earth was free, but the cost was almost too much to bear. Still, Lee Hyun looked at the people working in the rubble. A mother teaching her daughter to read using a book saved from their destroyed home. An elderly man sharing rice with neighbors. Workers singing as they cleared debris. Humans did not stay broken for long. "What about the prisoners?" he asked. 15,000 Vrelian soldiers in custody. We're treating them according to international law. Some countries wanted to execute them, but the UN decided against it. Lee Hyun nodded. Humanity could have taken revenge. Many wanted to. But leaders decided that treating prisoners with dignity would show the galaxy something important, that humans could be better than their anger. And the Admiral? The one who helped us? Park Ji-won's expression darkened. Fleet Admiral Toren was arrested by his own people. They're taking him back to the Vrelian Empire for trial. The charge is treason. The penalty is death. Lee Hyun looked up at the sky. Somewhere out there, the alien who had saved billions of human lives was being punished for it. It didn't seem right. Can we do anything? He asked. The UN is trying. They've sent diplomatic messages. But the Vrelians aren't responding. They're too embarrassed by their defeat. Months passed. Earth slowly healed. It would take years, maybe decades, to fully recover. But humans were good at surviving. Dr. Kang Mina led the effort to understand and integrate Vrelian technology. Her laboratory, rebuilt underground, was filled with alien equipment, computers, engines, weapons, all of it being studied and adapted. We've made progress on their faster-than-light drive, she told a gathering of international scientists. We understand the basic principles now. Give us 2 years, and we can build our own. What about their weapons? A military officer asked. We can replicate their plasma rifles within 6 months. Their armor, too. But here's the interesting part. Dr. Kang pulled up a holographic display. We're not just copying their technology. We're improving it. Human engineering combined with Vrelian science is creating something better than either alone. That became the theme of the recovery. Humans didn't just rebuild what they had lost. They built something new, something stronger. The United Nations transformed into the United Earth Government. Old borders remained, but they mattered less now. Countries that had been enemies for generations worked together. Because humans had learned a simple truth: divided, they could be conquered. Together, they were unstoppable. Choi Dae-ho retired from active military service. He had fought well during the war, earned medals, been promoted. But he was tired of fighting. He opened a small restaurant in Seoul, serving traditional Korean food. Soldiers and civilians came to eat, to talk, to remember those who didn't come home. One evening, a young woman came to his restaurant. She looked barely 18, with eyes that had seen too much for her age. Are you Commander Choi Dae-ho? She asked. Just Choi Dae-ho now, he replied. No more commander. You saved my brother during the battle for Seoul, she said. He told me before he died. Said you carried him out of a burning building. Choi Dae-ho remembered. He remembered a lot of young soldiers. Too many. I'm sorry I couldn't save him all the way, he said softly. He lived for 3 more months because of you, the young woman replied. He got to see his daughter born. He got to hold her. Thank you. She left, and Choi Dae-ho stood alone in his restaurant, tears running down his face. This was why they fought, not for territory or pride, for moments like that, for fathers who got to hold their daughters. In a laboratory in Beijing, Yoon Seojin worked on something new. The young tech specialist who had uploaded the virus was now leading Earth's cybersecurity program. His job was to make sure no one could do to Earth what Earth had done to the Vrelians. We're vulnerable, he reported to the UN Security Council. Our computer systems, our satellites, everything is exposed. If another species attacks, they could hack us. What do you recommend? Asked the council leader. We build isolated networks, separate systems that can't be accessed remotely. And we train a generation of cyber warriors, people who can fight wars in code as well as with weapons. The council approved his plan. Earth was learning. Never again would they be caught unprepared. 5 years after the invasion, something remarkable happened. Earth launched its first faster-than-light spacecraft. The ship was called Hope, and it carried a crew of 20 from 12 different nations. Their mission was to explore, to learn, to represent humanity to the wider galaxy. Commander Lee Hyun, now promoted to Admiral, spoke at the launch ceremony. 5 years ago, aliens came to our world expecting easy conquest. They thought we were primitive, divided, weak. They learned differently, but we also learned something. We learned that we are not alone in the universe. We learned that danger exists beyond our world. And we learned that humanity is strongest when we stand together. He paused, looking at the faces in the crowd. Survivors all. Every person on Earth was a survivor now. Today we take our first step into the galaxy, not as conquerors, not as invaders, but as explorers, as neighbors, as humans. We go in peace, but we go prepared, because we will never be victims again. The Hope launched, its engines bright against the dark sky. It accelerated faster and faster until it jumped to faster-than-light speed and disappeared. Humanity had left its cradle. Far away in a prison cell on the Vrelian homeworld, Fleet Admiral Toran waited for his execution. It was scheduled for the next day. He had been in this cell for 5 years, thinking about his choices, about the war, about humanity. A guard appeared at his cell door. "You have a visitor." Toran was surprised. No one had visited him in years. Most Vrelians considered him the worst traitor in their history. He expected another interrogator, or perhaps someone sent to mock him before his death. Instead, a young Vrelian female entered. She wore civilian clothes, not a military uniform. "Admiral Toran," she said. "My name is Kessa. I'm a student of military history." "Why are you here?" Toran asked. "Because I think you were right." Toran sat up straighter. "Explain." Kessa pulled out a data pad. "I've studied the war, the casualties, the tactics, everything. The Empire made every mistake you warned them about. We treated humans as primitives when they were innovators. We used standard conquest tactics when we needed new strategies. We expected submission when we should have expected resistance." "This sounds like treason," Toran observed. "Maybe," Kessa agreed. "But other people are saying it too, quietly. The loss of 200,000 soldiers, 50 ships, the complete failure of our invasion. It's causing people to question things, to wonder if the Empire's way is the only way." Toran felt something he hadn't felt in years. Hope. "What happens now?" he asked. "You die tomorrow," Kessa said bluntly. "The High Chancellor won't change that, but your ideas don't die with you. Some of us are listening, some of us are learning. Change is coming to the Empire. Slowly, but it's coming." She left, and Toran sat alone with his thoughts. He would die tomorrow, but maybe his death would mean something. Maybe other species would be spared because the Empire learned caution. The next day, Fleet Admiral Toran was executed. His last words were, "Leave humanity alone." Back on Earth, Admiral Lee Hyun received a message from an unexpected source. A Vrelian civilian encrypting her transmission through multiple relays, telling him about Toran's death, about his final words. Lee Hyun stood and saluted the empty sky. Saluted an alien admiral who had saved Earth, enemy and ally, traitor and hero. Sometimes the same person could be both. "Thank you," Lee Hyun said quietly. "We won't forget." Earth continued to recover. Cities were rebuilt, better than before. New technologies emerged. The economy stabilized. Children were born who would never remember the invasion, who would only know the world that came after. In schools, teachers told the story of the war. They taught about sacrifice, about courage, about unity. They taught about the alien admiral who betrayed his empire to save billions of lives. They taught that enemies could become allies, that even in war, honor mattered. And they taught the most important lesson: humans were strongest when they stood together. 10 years after the invasion, Earth's fleet numbered 50 vessels, not meant for conquest, but for defense, for exploration, for showing the galaxy that humanity was ready to be part of the wider universe. Dr. Kang Mina, now heading Earth's Science Council, made a discovery. She found evidence that the Vrelian Empire was changing. Their expansion had stopped. They were no longer conquering new worlds. The failure on Earth had shaken them to their core. "Good," Park Ji-won said when she heard the news. She was now a captain in Earth's fleet, commanding one of the new warships. "Let them remember. Let every species in the galaxy remember what happens when you threaten humanity." Earth sent out messages to the galaxy. Messages of peace, but also of strength. Messages that said, "We are here. We are ready. We will not be victims again." Some species responded with friendship, others with caution, a few with threats. But all of them had heard about Earth, about the primitive world that defeated the Vrelian Empire, about humans who refused to surrender. Commander Choi Daiho, sitting in his restaurant, saw all of this on the news. He smiled. The young soldiers he fought with, the ones who died, they would be proud. Earth had survived. Earth had grown. Earth was ready for whatever came next. As he closed his restaurant for the night, he looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there was humanity's future. Challenges, dangers, adventures. But whatever came, humans would face it together, because that's what humans did. They survived. They adapted. They stood together. The alien general had begged the Empire to leave humanity alone. They ignored him. They learned their mistake, and the galaxy would never forget. Humanity had arrived, and the universe would never be the same.